Several years ago, I had an interview with Jim Rogers. He is a noted investor. I asked him, how do you make exponential growth in the stock market? And he said, you have to identify undervalued assets. And I said, well, how do you do that? And he said, well, they're brought about by change. And what you have to do is recognize something that is changing before the rest of the market does, and then build a position in it. Last Friday, I recognized another change, and that is the energy crisis in England and the rest of Europe, and how it's going to play out this winter, because they're paying roughly 10 times what I'm paying for my natural gas. And that's going to change because of something I discovered as a result of a conversation that I had with people at my Friday Stock Talk. I want to share that with you.
Best of Us Investors presents Carrie Griegmeyer.
This is my energy bill, my Spire gas bill that Nita shared with me. And it tells me that last year I paid $33 at the 1st of November for my gas, and this year it's $67. So it's up twice. But then I recognize, and I've read, that people in Europe and the UK are paying 10 times what I am. So they would be paying $670. I looked further and I see my biggest bill is going to come in February. And if it's like last year, it'll be $206. But if it's doubled, it's going to be $412. Well, if I lived in Europe, from what I read, it would be $4,024 or $4,012, whatever, 10 times. And I'm wondering, why is this? Why is it gas so much more expensive? And from what I've read, and I understand, it's because Vladimir has got him over a barrel, got him by the short hairs, and he's basically getting in anything and everything out of it that they can. So then I did some research, and I came across an article written by Jennifer Warren. She is an author of Seeking Alpha, who I use quite extensively, and it's all about the Europe's dependence on Russia for their gas, and what are they going to be able to do about it and get out of it. So she then took me to an article that she wrote for a magazine, and it says how George Yates aims to help solve Europe's energy crisis. It's about a 6-page article that I'd be happy to share with you. I'll put a link to it in the description. And what it goes into is George Yates is I guess you'd call him, he's the guy who goes out and finds oil. And he made his fame by finding these oil basins in mostly New Mexico and Texas. And this was the advent of, he made his big name in fracking. So what he has been able to do was help the oil and gas companies find and then drill for fracking. And as a result of fracking, and if you'll remember back, it was not received well. It was believed, particularly if I remember in Pennsylvania, that it was going to contaminate the water supplies in certain areas. So they, I guess, have moved it to basically, I know there was some in North Dakota and New Mexico and Texas. And that's where he's made his fame. And what he has basically said, England can do the same thing. So in this article, it goes into detail how he has gone over to Spain and found oil deposits that are larger than those that they have in New Mexico and Texas. And as a basis of the New Mexico and Texas, it's believed we've got all the natural gas we're going to need and oil for the next 50 years. And by that time, we may have other opportunities or other vehicles to get energy. But then he goes on to say that they have done similar tests in Birmingham England. I live in Birmingham, Alabama, and they have in Birmingham, England, enough, if they'll use fracking, enough oil and gas to supply England for 50 years. Well, why then isn't Spain and the UK taking advantage of this? Well, much like we had a moratorium on fracking here in the United States, that's what's happened in Europe. And in fact, they just recently, with their new prime minister, the lady who was there for 44 days, she passed a bill to open in July, I think it was 7th, to open up fracking in this Birmingham, England area so that they can become undependent on Russia for their natural gas. They did a similar thing in Spain so that they aren't dependent on Russia for natural gas. So what I've pieced together is a picture that says this is an undiscovered asset. Most of the world doesn't know anything about it. Jennifer Warren wrote this article on November the 1st, 2022, just 5 days ago. So the world doesn't know about this. So what I look at this and say is the world, for the most part, doesn't know about something else I know about, and that is genome sequencing and genome editing, and how it's going to take cancer and Hodgkin's disease and Alzheimer's out of our bodies. Well, the rest of the world doesn't know about this. I am willing to bet you know absolutely nothing about this. You haven't connected the dots that the United States has become oil and gas independent. We've got enough to take care of ourselves for 50 years, and that was a result of fracking. Okay, that's a dot. Another dot is Vladimir is blackmailing and holding all of Europe and as far as that goes, Asia as well, to where they're paying, where I'm going to pay somewhere, what did I say? Last year I paid $206 in February. Based on what I'm paying this month, that's going to be $406. But if I lived in Ireland or England or France or Germany, it would be, what, $4,000 a month. For that month, for January, that breaks the bank. That puts people in jeopardy. So I believe that George Yates is going to be the gentleman who works with, and I've identified another company that he owns a substantial. His company is called YEOCO Energy, YECO Energy. As far as I can determine, he's the CEO of it, but it's a private company. It's something his grandfather started many years ago. But he has an association with a traded company on the stock market that I'm not going to mention now, but I'm going to do more investigation on, and I will share that with you. For right now, my move in this is to recognize oil industry is going to benefit, because George will go and find these deposits, but somebody else has to probably come in and do the drilling. Well, who's going to do that? Probably the people who have done it here in the United States. And again, I got to do more research, but I believe it's probably going to be ExxonMobil and probably Occidental Petroleum and Chevron. So that's why I bought XLE. It is a spider ETF that is extremely well performing. I showed you that in yesterday's video, and I believe that the oil industry is going to get a spike as a result of what George and Jennifer have taught me about what's going to happen next in the oil industry. And this is what Jim Rogers was talking about. If you can recognize an undervalued asset, what is the undervalued asset? Oil and gas, particularly natural gas. I've also shared with you that I own Shinar Energy, and that's ticker LNG, standing for liquid natural gas, because they are taking our excess natural gas from the shale production, putting it into tankers that are freezing it down to 265 degrees, which turns it into liquid, and then shipping it across the ocean to Europe, UK, even China. China has booked it for the next 5 years, not knowing what the price is going to be. So energy is an opportunity. This is what Jim Rogers was talking about. Recognize some change. Change is war. Change is what's happening from Vladimir, holding back the natural gas, blackmailing Europe, and then finding the company that's going to rectify that issue, okay? And I believe it's going to be through George Yates, and then I've just got to find the companies that are going to facilitate it. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to reach out to you. I'm going to say, help me out. Join my tribe. That's how I came on to all of this. That's how I got, if you watch yesterday's video, you'll learn that. That's how I got to where I am now. But what I think I am sharing with you right now is an unusual investment opportunity that is resulting from a change, and that is going to be Europe allowing fracking. Europe has enough natural gas under their feet to supply them for the next 50 years and not depend on Russia. Okay? Does that create some other issues? Yes, it does. But this is how you make money in the stock market. You don't depend on what is Janet Yellen going to do this week? What is Jerome Powell going to do this week? No, that's a given. Interest rates are going up to 9-10% next year. That's a given. You aren't going to make any money there. Where you're going to make money is finding something that is going to change the world we live in, and I think I found it. So, what I want, if you'd like a copy of this, I'll put it on a PDF, and you can read it. I've even highlighted all the things that I think are real important, and I'll put it on a PDF, and you give me your email address, and I'll mail it to you. Email it to you. I'm not going to spend $55 or whatever a stamp costs today. But that's my take. That's what I want to do for you. I don't want to talk about interest rates and the rate of the dollar. I want to find you what Jim Rogers said. The opportunities, the unidentified assets that are going to increase exponentially in value. All right, that's my take for today. I'll talk to you more about this because I'm going to dig into this. And please, share your knowledge with me. Come to our Discord and come to our Friday Stock Talks, and you'll be a part of what we're growing here. Again, tomorrow.